Good morning everyone, my name is Ritesh and today we will discuss uh, NPT, Non-Proliferation Treaty, right? And why this particular thing was in news, right? So we'll discuss all the various things and all the major things that will be involved in this topic itself, right? First thing you'll need to understand that this is somehow a static topic, right? Non-Proliferation Treaty. These things are happening in every year, right? So there's some kind of meeting over this place, then some countries pledge over this particular thing, right? So this is very static topic. If you understood the whole treaty itself, you don't need to remember every single thing and every now and then, right? Because these kind of thing will be mentioned in your newspaper every now and then, right? NPT. So first we'll discuss why this particular thing was in news, right? Why this particular static topic is now being currently used, right? So we'll discuss that. Then the key points involved in this NPT, the pledge that was involved, right? We'll discuss that. Then stand of different countries in NPT. What are like China stand, Russia stand, India stand? What are the stands of different countries in NPT, right? Then NPT itself, right? In just one slide, I'll discuss all the important things of NPT for your examination point of view, right? Then the issues involved in this treaty itself, right? So these kind of things we'll discuss in this topic itself, right? So let us start with the NPT. So first is why this was in news, right? So recently, 5 permanent United Nations Security Council members, which is China, France, Russia, UK and US, they all pledged to prevent atomic weapon spreading and to avoid nuclear conflict, right? So these 5 permanent UN Security Council members, China, France, Russia, UK and USA, they pledged to prevent atomic weapons spreading and to avoid nuclear conflict, right? So this was the reason why was in news recently, right? These countries pledged to stop nuclear proliferation, right? Then the statement, why this pledge came, right? Why this statement comes in news? Why they are saying these kind of things, right? So the reason is that the statement comes as tension between Russia and USA have reached heights rarely since the Cold War over a troop built by Russia close to the Ukrainian border. So the basic idea behind this is that there's a tension involved between Russia and USA, right, over a troop which is basically built by Russia, and the troop which is built by Russia is situated near the again Ukrainian border. So that is why this statement comes there, because there is a tussle between Russia and US over these kind of areas, right? That is why this pledge comes. Next, so you have understood why this particular thing was in news recently, right? Now we'll discuss the key points involved in this news. First is the pledge. What was the pledge basically, right? So let us discuss that. So the pledge is about the further spread of such weapons must be prevented, right? So the pledge says that spreading of such kind of weapons must be prevented. Why? Because again, it is very dangerous to the society at large. You can't just take an atom bomb and put it there, right? There'll be mass destruction if any kind of thing will happen in near future, right? So that is why the spreading of such kind of weapons must be prevented. This is the first thing that will be covered in under this pledge, right? That the spread of such weapons must be prevented. Next is the avoidance of war between nuclear weapon states and the reduction of strategic risks as our foremost responsibilities, right? So the pledge talks about that the foremost responsibility is to avoid war between nuclear weapon states, right? For example, if 2 states are having nuclear weapon, right? For example, I can give you an example of US and North Korea, right? So both have atomic bombs, right? Nuclear bombs. So if they have a tussle between them, if there's a tussle between them, so they can actually uh, put that bomb in other explode that bomb in other country, right? And this will impact so many people. That is why I'm saying this. As you already know that atomic bomb and nuclear bomb are very dangerous, right? So that is why the pledge says that the first again idea was to prevent any such spreading of such weapons, and then if any states, if there are states which are having atomic weapons or nuclear weapons, there must be avoidance of war between these nuclear states, right? Because again, other third parties will also get affected if the two nuclear weapon states will start to fight, right? So again, this must be avoided, right? Avoidance between fight of two nuclear war states, right? Two nuclear weapon states. Then nuclear weapons, for as long as they continue to exist, should serve defensive purpose, deter aggression and prevent war. Now they are saying, the pledge talks about that if you are having nuclear weapon, if any country will have nuclear weapon, this weapon should be serve as a defensive purpose, right? They should deter aggression and prevent war. These kind of weapons will be used as a sort of defensive purpose. First thing is defensive. You can't attack someone with a nuclear weapon. That is what this pledge is saying, right? Then next is, they intend to maintain and further strengthen their national measures to prevent unauthorized or unintended use of nuclear weapon, right? So again they are saying you can't just unauthorized use nuclear weapons and all, right? So again, if you consider this pledge, you will have to remember first that the first responsibility is to the spread of these kind of weapons must be prevented. Then second is that the avoidance of war between two nuclear weapon states, right? And then if a nuclear weapon is there, they should serve as a defensive purpose, right? They can serve defensive purpose, deter aggression, right, and prevent war. So this was all about the pledge that was taken by 5 again permanent UN Security Council members, right? So this was the pledge. Now let us discuss China's stand over this, right? What is the China's stand over this particular thing? So as per China says it raised concerns that tension with US could lead to conflict, notably over the island of Taiwan. Again, in this topic, again with regard to NPT, China is saying that there are tensions with US that could lead to conflict. Again, why? Because over the Taiwan, over the island of Taiwan, China and US are in dispute over the island of Taiwan. So they are saying that this will rise, the tensions will go on and on. It will lead to conflict over this issue, right? Again, why over this island of Taiwan? Because China considers Taiwan part of its territory and has vowed to one day seize it by force if necessary. Again, China is saying we will seize that island by force if necessary, right? And this is again, this will lead to conflict between US and China, right? And China is saying this, that we will use force if needed just to seize that particular property, just to seize that particular island of Taiwan, right? Then what is the Russia's stand over this? Now Russia welcomed the declaration by the atomic powers and expressed hope it would reduce global tensions, right? Now first thing you need to understand that I am talking about stand of different countries. Now their stand is after the pledge of these 5 UN Security Council members, right? Permanent Security Council members, right? So these 5 countries have again pledged, and then they are taking stands why they are saying, China is saying that we have pledged because again the tensions with US will again rise over the island of Taiwan, right? Again, if you refer to the Taiwan, in case of Taiwan, China says that we want to seize that property even by force if necessary. Then Russia says that the declaration basically the declaration has been welcomed by the country Russia, right? By the atomic powers, and they express hope that it would eventually reduce global tensions, right? Then let's discuss NPT itself, the whole, because it is a static topic, and you just need to remember the keywords over there, this some dates, some years, and just that. Okay, so NPT, Non-Proliferation Treaty, was signed in 1968 and it entered into force in 1970, right? And there are 190 member states in which India is not a member, right? So again, all these things is important. It was signed in 1968. It entered into force in 1970. There are 190 member states, and India is not one such state who is a member, right? India is not a member of NPT. Now, next is about NPT, that it requires countries to give up any present or future plans to build nuclear weapons in return for access to peaceful uses of nuclear energy. Now, NPT says, Non-Proliferation Treaty, it says that if you want to access peaceful use of nuclear energy, then you have to give up any present or future plans to build nuclear weapons, right? They are saying that if you want to access these, if you want to access nuclear energy for peaceful use, then you have to give up any usage, any present or future plans to build nuclear weapons. So it prohibits building of nuclear weapons in even present or even in future itself, right? So this you have to understand. This is very simple, that if you want to access nuclear energy for peaceful use, then you have to give up the present or any future plan of building nuclear weapons. That's it. Then it represents the only binding commitment in a multilateral treaty to the goal of disarmament by the nuclear weapon states. So again, this is important because it is the only binding commitment in a multilateral treaty, right? What is the goal? The goal is to disarmament by nuclear weapon states, right? So again, this point is very important. Then non-nuclear weapon state parties under the NPT, which is Non-Proliferation Treaty, are defined as those that manufactured and exploded a nuclear weapon or other nuclear explosive devices before 1st January 1967. So basically, the NPT, Non-Proliferation Treaty, define nuclear weapon state parties as those states that manufactured and exploded a nuclear weapon or other nuclear explosive devices before 1st January 1967, right? So again, 1967, 68 and 1970 is very important. 67, this is being mentioned in the definition of nuclear weapon state parties. Then 68 is the year when it was signed, and the 70 it came into force, right? So these all things are related to this. So just remember this thing. Now let us discuss India's stand over this proliferation treaty, NPT, right? So India says that India is one of the only 5 countries that either did not sign the NPT or signed but withdrew later, thus becoming part of a list that includes Pakistan, Israel, North Korea and South Sudan, right? So again, India is one of the such countries that actually, just like I've said, that there are 190 member states in this NPT treaty, right? And now India is one of the only 5 countries that either did not sign it or withdrew later, right? And that is why you have to remember there are 5 countries which withdrew from this treaty or even did not sign actually at all, right? So which are the five countries? Pakistan, Israel, North Korea, South Sudan and India. These are the five countries. Now, India always considered NPT as discriminatory, right? The basic reason of not to sign this particular treaty is that they are saying that this treaty is very discriminatory in nature. India has opposed the international treaties aimed at non-proliferation since they were selectively applicable to the non-nuclear powers and actually legitimized the monopoly of the five nuclear powers, right? So India actually opposed this international treaty, right, which is aimed at non-proliferation, right? Again, and why? Because as per India, these treaties were selectively applicable to the non-nuclear powers and they actually legitimized the monopoly of five nuclear weapon powers, right? So this is basically the India stand over NPT, right? Then now let's discuss the issues involved in this whole thing, NPT. First issue is that the non-nuclear weapon states criticizes the treaty to be discriminatory, just like I've said, as it focuses on preventing only horizontal proliferation while there is no limit for vertical proliferation. Now again, there are two new terms that are being mentioned here: horizontal proliferation and vertical proliferation, right? Now let us understand first these two terms. First, vertical proliferation. What is vertical proliferation? Now, they can be defined as the advancement or modernization of a nation state's nuclear arsenal, right? And whereas horizontal proliferation says the direct or indirect transfer of technologies from one state to another, which ultimately leads to the more advanced development and proliferation of nuclear weapons, right? So, see, first thing, that the vertical proliferation says that the advancement, the modernization of a nation state's nuclear arsenal, right? So this talks about their own nuclear arsenal, right? They are talking about their own. For example, if you take an example of India, so in vertical proliferation, we are saying that the India talks about their own nuclear arsenal. They are talking about the modernization and the advancement of their own nuclear arsenal. While horizontal proliferation says that the direct or indirect transfer of technologies from one state to another. For example, India helped US to build such kind of thing, and that is actually this horizontal proliferation actually will lead to the more advanced development and the proliferation of nuclear weapons, right? So you understand these two terms. Vertical proliferation is one where the country think about their advancement and modernization of their own nuclear arsenal, while horizontal arsenal is one such thing where one can transfer their technologies from one country to another country, right? And the issue is that the non-nuclear weapon states criticizes this treaty to be discriminatory. Again, why they are saying this is discriminatory? Even India is saying that this treaty is discriminatory. Why? The reason is that this treaty prevent only horizontal proliferation while there is no limit for vertical proliferation, right? This means that this treaty says that this treaty actually prohibit horizontal proliferation. That is, you can't transfer one's own technology to another to build nuclear weapon, but there is no limit for vertical proliferation. Means you can develop, you can modernize your own nuclear arsenal, right? Now, last issue is that as there is no explicit obligation on part of nuclear weapon states to reduce their arsenal, nuclear weapon states have continued to expand their respective arsenal without any constraint. Now, second is again, because there is no such kind of limit on vertical proliferation, these nuclear weapon states actually stock their nuclear weapons, right? They continue to expand their respective arsenals without any constraint because there is no constraint on vertical proliferation, right? So this was basically the issue behind this whole topic, NPT. Again, to summarize this whole topic, first thing from examination point of view, what you need to understand is why this was in news. Again, pledge to stop. Why this was in news? Because the 5 permanent UN Security Council members pledged to prevent this kind of thing. So you have to remember these 5 permanent UN Security Council members. Then the reasons are here just for your basic understanding, just for you to understand this whole thing, right? Then the key points involved is very important, right? What this pledge is talking about. Then the stand of different countries, but the main thing is that you have to remember the India stand over NPT, right? And then the static part itself, NPT, right? And the issues involved in this whole topic. And the 2 key terms that I have discussed, vertical and horizontal proliferation. If you came across such kind of thing, you need to just remember these kind of things, right? So thank you so much for this topic. Okay.